October 6th, 1990. I was 25 years old, and it was my wedding day. I had dreamed of this day, and it was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but it wasn't. My new husband did not want to dance with me. He did not want to be by my side. His tux was too small, his shoes hurt, and on and on and on. And because of all of his complaining, I was also miserable. But at least we were in love, right? Growing up, I watched my parents be in love too. Their marriage was not like the TV sitcoms I watched. We were definitely not the Brady Bunch or the Cunninghams from Happy Days. There was a lot of stress, arguing, walking around on eggshells, but they were my example of a real-life married couple. So on my wedding day, I didn't think too much about my misery. I just thought it was part of being married. 2 years into my marriage, I started asking myself some questions. Was I happy? Was I in love? I didn't have the answers, so I started attending a 12-step group, reading a lot of self-help books, and seeing a counselor. I asked my husband to go with me, and he said he would, but he never showed. He always had an excuse. When my husband and I were not fighting, I thought things were good. But then we would argue, or he would physically restrain me, or threaten to kill me if I ever thought about leaving him. And then I was fearful and unhappy. But the next day he would be so sorry, and things would be good again. I really thought I was the crazy one for even considering or thinking about leaving him. I continued with my weekly meetings and checking out as many self-help books from the library as possible. I read those books during my lunch hour at work. This went on for about a year, and I was learning a lot about myself. I learned that the things that were going on in my marriage were not normal. In one of my meetings, I remember a person sharing that it was so nice to no longer be on the roller coaster. She said that her life had always been a series of extreme highs and lows, and since working on herself, it was nice to have a more even, steady life. What? I didn't even know that was an option. I finally convinced my husband to attend one of my counseling sessions. At my very next session, my counselor told me that she would never meet with the two of us at the same time again because I was in an abusive marriage and it would not be safe for me. This was an eye-opening moment for me. I thought that if I left my marriage, it would mean that I was a failure. I was afraid to leave a known situation for the unknown. What if I couldn't make it on my own? What if I never found love again? What if my husband would come after me and follow through on his threats? Even with all of this fear, I knew that I could not continue to live an unhappy life. I wanted something better for myself. I finally made the extremely difficult decision to file for divorce. My attorney said he would not file the papers until he knew that I was out of the house and safe. Now I had a counselor and an attorney afraid for my safety, and now I was afraid too. 3.5 years into my marriage, I picked a Saturday morning and asked my friends and family if they could help me move out of my house. My husband was going to be at work that day. I told everyone to help me, but at their own risk. I hoped that he would not come home early. My moving day eventually became known as the bug out. We frantically threw my belongings into garbage bags, nervously looking out the window the entire time to making sure he didn't pull into the driveway. And then we rushed to fill a moving van as quickly as humanly possible. I did leave a note on the table that the utilities would be turned off on Monday unless he called to have them changed to his name and not to worry about our puppy, Jessie, because she was with me. And then I left. I grieved the loss of my marriage and the loss of what could have been, but I kept working on myself and hoped that someday I would be able to find a safe, nurturing, loving relationship. I observed my friends' and coworkers' relationships and wished that someday I could have something special too. But I didn't think it was possible for me. A few months later, I was introduced to Bill, a very funny, handsome man, and his girlfriend, and secretly wished that I could find someone who would treat me as well as he treated her. As luck would have it, Bill and his girlfriend broke up. And eventually he asked if I would be interested in seeing him. I told him that that would be nice, but inside I was deathly afraid of the possibility of a new relationship. I told my friends and counselors about Bill. My friends told me it was too early to start seeing anyone and that I should be very cautious. And they told me not to jump into anything, but my counselor supported the possibility. She pointed out the fact that I had been working through the grieving process of my failed marriage for well over a year, and that I had already done a lot of great work and to continue working on myself. My first marriage taught me what I didn't want in a relationship, but I still didn't know how to have or what was even possible in a great relationship. In this new relationship, I was extremely cautious and continually waiting for Bill to explode and yell at me. I spent a lot of time waiting for the other shoe to drop. I finally took a big risk and shared my fears with him. He was very supportive and understanding and told me to do what I needed to do to take care of myself. During my first marriage, my husband was always telling me that he'd be home at a certain time or take me to an appointment and then he would never show. I was used to lots and lots of broken promises. So I was very hesitant to believe any promises from this new guy, Bill. I was always calling him to confirm if things were still on or if he was still going to stop by to visit, and I also shared my fears with Bill and explained why I was double-checking all the time. He understood, and he said that he is not my ex-husband and that he would never break a promise to me. And he asked me to trust him. I found that I was able to be honest with him, and we were able to communicate about anything and everything. This was a totally new experience for me. I shared that I was seeing a counselor and asked if he would be willing to see her with me. He agreed, so we went to joint counseling sessions before moving forward with our new relationship. I was shocked that he agreed to go with me, and again, I am still and was at that point in time waiting for his true colors to show, just like in my first marriage. But Bill treated me with nothing but respect, kindness, and a gentleness I had never experienced. I finally allowed myself to feel safe around him, and that was a gigantic risk and a very new feeling for me. It was time for me to take this risk because I was sick and tired of living an unhappy life. On the outside, I am sure I looked like everything was fine and things were going well, but that was a coping skill I learned early in my life. And I just didn't want to continue using that much energy to look happy. I wanted to actually and sincerely be happy from the inside out. I continued to see my counselor, attend my weekly meetings, and read self-help books, and Bill supported and encouraged me through all of this. If you would have asked me to be honest and describe what love and marriage was in my first marriage, I would have used words such as fear, intimidation, no boundaries, untrustworthy, dishonest, not safe, unhealthy. And if you would have told me that after leaving my first marriage, I would find a man who would love me and that we would raise 2 beautiful daughters together and have a very happy marriage, I never would have believed you. Today, I would describe love and marriage with the following words: unconditional love, safe, trustworthy, sincere, a true partnership, caring and sharing, mutual support, and encouragement and giving. And speaking of girls, parenting, oh my God, that's another whole level of love. I had no idea that you could love someone so deeply. Raising our girls is by far my greatest accomplishment. I do not believe there is such a thing as a perfect parent. But if you asked me if I thought that Bill and I were successful parents, I would say yes. I am very proud that we were able to provide our girls with a safe home and that they were raised without fear or intimidation, I especially loved the fact that they were allowed to be carefree kids and weren't forced to grow up too fast. As our girls are growing up and developing deeper relationships, whether romantic or not, I have been able to share with them my past experiences. I've been able to teach them that they should never accept, tolerate, or endure the treatment that I once dealt with on a daily basis. I am also extremely pleased that we taught them that they can always depend on us to be there for them and to follow through on all of our promises, always and forever. And I believe it is because Bill and I worked hard on our relationship and showed them that we love them and each other each and every day. My life today is better than I ever dreamed it could be. If I knew then what I know now, I never would have gotten married the first time. After all these years, I can also say that I am grateful to all of my life experiences, both the good and the bad, because I have an appreciation of my life that I never, ever could have had without all of my previous experiences. With Bill's help, kindness, understanding, and support, and my willingness to be open to love again, I learned what love truly is. It took me 30 years, a lot of hard work, and huge risk-taking, but it was totally worth the wait. And next month, Bill and I will be celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary.